Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nerd Haven podcast. This is episode 3. We're finally going to talk about one of John's favorite movies, which I, I. The whole point of this episode is for him to get me to understand that point of view, but we'll see. Um, John,
It's funny that you spoiled it, basically the end of this podcast, but it is actually what I wanted to suggest for this episode because it is a bit unusual. We kind of switched roles because for this podcast, you will be the one shitting all over this movie and I will be the one defending it.
yeah, and so you know what and right off the bat, so people know where we stand on it. I I don't hate this movie as some others do. I just think this is one of the lesser quality movies in the MCU. So that's what our conversation is going to be about. Um, but yeah, we are 3 episodes in. So if you guys want to catch up on some of the other ones, we did Doctor Strange for some fucking reason. That was a movie that John enjoyed. So that's where he started with his MCU journey. And then we went back and started with Iron Man. So if you guys are interested in that, go and check out those videos. So, John, the Incredible Hulk.
Well, let me start with this. Whenever I first announced that I will be going on this adventure, on this journey of watching all the MCU movies, or at least most of them, I received a lot of warnings or cautionary tales about this one, the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. I went into it with very low expectations, but at the same time, I wasn't about to skip it simply because of that. I fully respect the opinions of you, Dark, and others who are like, "Yeah, this is probably the most skippable one. You will not like this one and stuff." So I was fine. Just a shitty movie. I'm just gonna skip over the fight scenes and I'm just gonna see what the story is all about. But at the same time, I was always curious about the Hulk because it's my main character in, the Marvel Rivals, the game. And I was like, maybe I should at least know the backstory, a bit more.
Mhm.
So I was willing to give it a try. I tried to be as objective as possible. I tried to appreciate, the whatever the movie has to offer. And right off the bat, I kind of hated it because it started it made me feel like I missed a previous episode.
Right.
It gave you like a recap of like what happened in the previous passages of their lives, and I was like, wait, am I watching the right movie? Was there like a previous movie that I skipped?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Like they basically put like most of the origin, quote unquote, as like an intro. Um, and not a lot of explanation. They just kind of led you through what happened. Um, and I actually think that was one of the problems for me. But it's interesting that
They kind of skipped over some interesting stuff, right?
They
Were
did.
like previous episode, all this amazing stuff that so many fans were curious about happened.
They did, and I think that I mean, you're further into the MCU now, but the the MCU, I feel, doesn't do Hulk a lot of justice. Um, they, especially like with this movie. This movie felt like an afterthought. Like it was already done. Let's see how we can include it with the rest of our plan. And you see it later on being with some post credit scenes and stuff. But the it's like tonally so different. The the pacing for me is a little weird. Um, but all in all, I still like. If we want to get into some positives, at least from my side, I do like the overall narrative of the Abomination and all that stuff. And to me, this Hulk still feels like I don't know, the stronger Hulk um than what we see like in Avengers or anything on later on. Um
Mhm.
Abomination actually felt like very threatening, and that whole thing that happened in Harlem, it's was crazy. And all that
Yeah.
stuff I do really like. The problem that I have with this movie though is that it does feel a little dull to me. Um just it, not very interesting. And I think it's because I wish they just did more for Hulk, you know?
Gotcha. I think everything that you mentioned is extremely valid, and it's most likely the main reason why so many fans of MCU would hate it. But it's also probably the biggest reason why me, as the non-MCU fan, actually enjoyed this movie quite a lot, because even though this is not an origin movie, like by any means, this is a movie where we're like in the middle, of this Hulk storyline where he's
Hmm.
already like affected. So they kind of skip the origin part, which is unusual. At least what I've noticed, from the other MCU movies down the line. Most of them are essentially origin movie and then like a continuation, mostly with like other characters, down the line. So that definitely caught me by surprise. Even though the beginning part kind of confused me, you probably know this by now, I love it when a movie starts you off slow and shows you how much the character struggles. This is less of a superhero movie and more of a movie of a man who's dealing with a curse or a terrible accident that happened to him, and he's suffering. Every day of his existence is just a painful, miserable experience. He is avoiding contact with his loved ones. He completely cut ties. He's desperately looking for something that would not only cure him but protect the world from him, because he is a weapon. And you could see it how he reacted viciously, in the freaking bottle factory. One of my biggest gripes with this movie is also your biggest complaint, that I wanted the dull parts of the movie to last longer because I wanted him to work at the freaking bottle factory for like several episodes. I wanted him to like flirt with the sexy hot Brazilian lady that was there for some fucking reason. I wanted those scenes. I wanted him to get like drunk. I love the fact that he constantly like checks on his pulse, on that little beeper
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
his
So cool.
hand, and the remote contact, with the scientist that we will discover later who it is, and the military, just constantly looking for him and immediately noticing that freaking Stan Lee, died from like drinking the gamma juice from his body. It was a very nice tie-in. I did like that. I was kind of afraid that he would actually turn into a Hulk and we would get like a Stanley Hulk, but that's not how it works. So yeah,
So
like
I
in this way,
actually, sorry to cut you off. I actually
no, go for
really
it.
like all of the things that you mentioned as well. The only thing that I wish we got before that is some weight to it.
Mm.
Like I would have liked to seen this be a a result of something else. Like I would have liked to see him wreck through a fucking city or something, and
Ah, good point.
and then like the result of that is him being in exile and him dealing with it with all of this. And because I just feel like we're getting all of that personal drama with Bruce Banner, which I actually love, and I love that about like Iron Man as well, right? Like the internal struggle. Um, but what they did different with Iron Man is that we got to see his
The whole
mistake
journey.
first, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that would have made it for me. And the only thing that is not fair for me looking at this movie is that this movie went progressively worse in ranking the more I got into the MCU. And
Ah,
and it's because it feels even more disconnected the more you go into the MCU. Um Originally when I watched this movie, I was like, yeah, this is fine. Like my wife wanted to skip it in our watch along and I'm like, you sure you want to skip the Incredible Hulk? There's other ones that we um but uh but she wanted to skip it. Um And I like I said, I don't hate this movie, but I do feel like it's what do they call it? The redheaded stepchild. um,
yes.
it just gets like overlooked, and the overall scheme of the MCU, it just doesn't feel like it belongs.
I absolutely agree that this movie could have been much better. if it started the way you suggested. And perhaps they could have added a bit more from those flashbacks, at the very beginning, or the exposition, if you will. I think that would have definitely made the movie better. And they could have cut down on some of the fat, trimmed it a little bit, make some of those dull moments, a bit more exciting for the general casual audience that, want him to see Smash. Like, I was generally not really interested, like in the fight scenes and stuff. I usually skip those, and this one definitely got off the rails. But it was also vicious, It
Mhm.
you are kind of expecting Hulk to smash like an entire fucking city, when he goes full on rage. And but I more than that, I did enjoy the confrontations, with the Abomination guy who like progressively started losing his mind, which was probably also caused by the serum. Which, by the way, now I understand that it's the same serum that also Captain America received, to get all roided up and stuff, and how important of a decision it was for the doctor in Captain America to actually pick, someone weak, scrawny, who just had a good heart,
Yep.
So that also was like a very. I'm glad that I saw this movie because it kind of prepared me for what comes next.
Yeah, indeed. I love that the whole time you're getting into the MCU, it's like it's that scene Captain America saying, "I understand that reference,"
Yes.
because as you're getting into it, it's just like more and more things make sense as far as like the video games and all that stuff. Um, I love it.
So much. I'm discovering a whole new world. Trust me. Like so many synapses are making connections with the things that I have seen before and never understood and kept asking, and I feel stupid. Well,
Yeah,
I felt stupid. Now I feel smarter.
but I mean, it is such a complex world and universe. That there's so much to keep up with, and sometimes it's hard to do that much. But
It surprised me. I genuinely didn't expect this level of complexity and depth. I thought that it would be like surface level action hero nonsense, like
mhm,
Transformers.
yeah. Oh my god, Transformers. Um, so what are some of the other things apart from that internal struggle and stuff like that, that like the Jekyll and Hyde thing, it story that's going on with Bruce Banner and the Hulk is so good to me. It's always so entertaining. The fact that they're basically two beings in one body. Um, and the fact that it can all just go off the rails at any time. But as we find out later on, there's different ways about it. But what are some of the other things in this movie that you found were done in a way that you basically had no notes on, or that you really enjoyed?
May Gavanen Melonin I Enethni Arven. You
She
got that reference?
she was great.
She was great. I will most likely start every, or at least most of the Marvel Universe movies with a very unflattering complaint about the sidekicks of superheroes or their love interests. And again, it's nothing against the women. I love women. And I very much enjoyed Arwen in this role. I don't even know what her name was. She was Arwen. I know she was a doctor, very important. I loved how they dealt with this relationship. I loved I loved everything about it. She was great. She dealt with everything satisfactorily, or at least to me. And I just had no objections. And my favorite scene was when when they took a cab in New York, and then she lost her shit at the end of it because the driver was like bumping, into everything.
Yeah.
She was screaming her lungs out at him. She completely lost it, and it was great. I love it when women just are like, not perfect and actually show some emotions like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's great because it was like bottling up, and it just
Mhm.
blew up on the cab.
And I never imagined Arwen, in such a position because she's an elf, she's supposed to be very composed.
Yeah, she Liv Taylor. Is it Liv Taylor? Is her real name?
Liv
Um,
Tyler? No, I think that's like a singer from like a group or something.
no.
Wait,
Well,
I need to Google it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's Liv Taylor. Um,
Steven Tyler? That's what I'm thinking.
um, but she's great, and that relationship was actually well done, I think. Which is another
It was very
thing
tasteful.
that I'm like, what happened to this relationship? It means nothing to the Hulk moving forward. Never
I know.
never brought up.
This whole thing bothered me very much during the next movies that I watched where Hulk was involved, because I understand that sometimes contractual obligations, creative differences, and just actors kind of get disappeared from certain roles and replaced. Like they could have at least picked someone a bit closer to this Hulk, someone serious, someone with certain ties to this movie, than like a complete fucking goofball with like gray hair on his sides, even though he was like much younger in this movie. I hated the casting choice for the next Hulk. Like he's a good actor, sure, and the Hulk scenes are fine, but like my goodness, you will hear me ranting a lot about the future Hulk compared to this one. How do you feel
Interesting.
about the change or the switcheroo for these Hulks? Do you prefer this one or the next one?
So I do like Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner a bit more because I felt like he was the nerdier, I don't know, more socially awkward of the two. I feel like this is weird to say though, but I feel like the Hulk representation in the Incredible Hulk may have been better.
Mhm.
I think that later on they start, leaning towards, I mean, we don't have to get into that now, but there is some things that I enjoy that about like this Hulk in this movie that we start losing, and it
Mhm.
kind of sucks. But I do like Mark Ruffalo quite a bit, which we'll talk about when he comes back up.
Gotcha. Well, I apologize in advance for any very unfair comments about Mark Ruffalo and me wishing death upon him because he ruined Hulk for me.
I mean, it's fine. I actually like Edward Norton a lot as well. Which kind of sucks because it's like, it, who knows what he would have done with the role if it would have worked out.
Indeed, indeed. And I also recognize that, like, tonally, this is a very different movie compared to like the other MCU ones. But I did enjoy the darker tone, the more serious tone, the
Hmm.
more this genuinely felt less like a superhero movie and more like a movie where the hero is just cursed and he's trying to do his best to like protect his loved ones and to survive. And I also liked how things kind of developed where he essentially was unleashed, to save the city, and even the general, who, of course, was the worst dad ever, finally
The
understood, and saw
fucking
the light.
worst.
And oh yeah, he is the worst. These army dads, oh my goodness, they're just the worst. It's
Yeah,
such a trope, but I kind of enjoy it.
it is a trope, right? Is, so what are, I guess let's talk about some dislikes. I think you mentioned a couple things, but what are some of the things that you wish or that didn't work for you?
It's an older movie, and I think the CGI was pretty bad at a
Hmm.
certain point. I cannot really argue, but some of the fight scenes were very decent, like him using the shields and like fighting against the tanks. Surprisingly, I think this movie looked better when it was brightened, when it was daylight. When it got dark, it didn't really work for me. Like the
Mm.
last scene, although it was like good in terms of brutality and like destructions, the fact that you couldn't really see, it's like taking pictures, when it's bad weather or when it's dark, it just doesn't really look good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or did you actually like the CGI or how
I
uh,
mean,
certain scenes were made?
I think the CGI has aged quite a bit, but I think it might be so. Like this movie came out around the same time as Iron Man, right? But when you really think about it, the CGI in Iron Man might be a little easier to pull off because it's not organic. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
good point.
yeah. So like maybe CGI metal in Iron is different than like green skin, but
Yeah, robots are easier than monsters.
but I think it was fine. There are some times that it's definitely a bit rough, but I do agree that some of the fights are really cool. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie is that they're not afraid of Hulk being Hulk. Um, like some of the cartoon moves or comic book moves, like the Hulk smash, the hand slap and all that stuff. It's things that um were pulled straight out of like his abilities in comics or video games, and I love that they would just, hey, let's just put that in,
Yeah, when he said Hulk smash, like during the final fight, like I was so happy. That was everything I wanted from this movie, and it freaking delivered.
Yeah, so now you know how some of us fans feel in some of these what
No, don't
what
use
it,
the F word.
in some of these, because you can tell some of these moments are just fan service, right? Like these
Oh
movies
yeah.
are full of fan service, but they work because of that. Um, there are some moments like leading up that that one thing that I love about the MCU is that they will stack up moments, right, to something epic. And um and I love that. I love that about, certain things that are either comic book related or whatever. And fans go fucking crazy. Like going to the movie theaters, now you can see what I mean, that certain moments people were like cheer. For some
Yeah, I
people,
can only imagine.
they probably, maybe you will be like, everybody needs to shut up watching this movie.
Yes. Well, during my first few movies, I was kind of like enjoying those moments for what it is, and they still worked, even though I wasn't really familiar like with the fan services stuff. So knowing full well it wasn't really for me. But like the more of these movies I watch, the more I pick up, on these things, like why the camera kind of zooms in on the entire team and shows them, in like a certain configuration, and epic music starts playing, like in the Avengers, or just yeah, there are certain moments where I absolutely can like understand the fan service connections and ties, to comic books and video games and stuff, and it's very well done.
So there's something that I want to ask you that's not exactly movie, like specific movie related, but more about your viewing experience. How do you think this would have fared or would have changed your opinion if you had seen this on a big screen?
I genuinely think I would dislike it much more because the fact that I'm in control and I can like skip over certain scenes that bore me or that I dislike makes these movies much better for me. Even the fact that I can just stop the movie for a moment and like go pee or write some notes, for this podcast, or just kind of take a screenshot and send it, to you or Solitary or any other of my friends and kind of like poke fun of it. This is what I enjoy about this movie so much.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I mean, everybody consumes content differently, right? There is a, like I said before, a social element to these things, but not everyone wants to consume it socially. And you like having that control, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Um
I almost watch these movies as if I was reading a book and like analyzing it. I did exactly this during my university days. The first reading was just focusing on some of these key elements, kind of analyzing them, picking them apart, perhaps even looking up references to other works or stuff that I was working on, like as if it was an essay. And then once I kind of went through the phase of analysis, then I actually read it again and was like, oh, I get it now. I know what's gonna happen. Oh, this is still fun to me. I'm weird that way. I don't
yeah.
mind like watching the same movie several times because I learn new things every time, and I like understanding the movies like fully in their entirety. Just
You
like
know,
when I read books.
which is actually something very interesting to learn about you, because I, especially since I know that you weren't initially a fan of all these things or superheroes or whatever, the fact that you are willing to watch a movie more than once to kind of dive deeper into it and learn more about it and see what, like, actually dissect it, so to speak, is very interesting to me. So it's not just a like a one and done thing, like just to do it so that you said you did it.
Yeah, sometimes all I need is just like a little spark, of interest or curiosity. And what definitely helped was watching the Doctor Strange, finally kind of like forcing myself into it and enjoying it. And then, of course, like the peer pressure of you guys and seeing all these references in the video games and on the internet, and finally being like, you know what, I got nothing else to watch, let me give it a try, but like a really really good try, not just like watch one movie and be like, I don't like this, move on. I'm actually gonna delve in and judge this in its entirety, because I don't like it when people are like, well, Matrix, the first movie was fun but the other ones were shit. No, I judge Matrix as the entire franchise, as all three movies. And to me, all of them are just divine, amazing.
I guess we'll have to do some episodes on those.
Oh boy, I expect
No,
it. I guess we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
I do like those movies. They're whatever, but
Wow.
but no, they're entertaining in their own ways. But I agree. I agree, and that's why I thought that when you were 15 minutes into Iron Man and you were like, I don't know, I was like, just keep going, please. Keep going.
You recognized well that there was the breaking point. I was fully ready to kind of like be like, well, that's what I did with Game of Thrones initially. Like I watched like 7 minutes or something, and then I just stopped and never returned.
Because see, like, I knew, because your argument was legit, right? Like, and I knew that you were ready to give up because of that. But I also, like, knowing Iron Man, I knew that that wasn't it, right? Like so I'm like, just push a little bit further, because the big problem that you're having right now will end soon, and there's a reason for it, and that's why. So, like, me and my wife, when we watch new TV shows, we have a 3-episode rule. If you can't catch me in 3, depends on the series, right? If you're a 6-episode series, I'm not going to give you 3 episodes. But we usually have a 3-episode rule, that if you can't hold our attention for 3 episodes, or buy us into the story, then we're not going to watch the show. So for movies, we like to at least get through the first act. And if not, it's like, no, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, this, from me playing Marvel Rivals and like completely just ignoring the argument about playing Cloak and Dagger, even though you knew well that I would enjoy playing that character.
Mhm.
But I did eventually got into it and recognized, that it's a good character for me.
You are nothing if not stubborn, John Aaron.
Yes, but I am breakable,
That is true. You just got to be persistent. And
Indeed.
that's why when we're done with MCU, we're going to Game of Thrones.
You know what? I'm actually not opposed, because I watched a few, this is embarrassing, YouTube shorts that showcased like a few just scenes. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know what they were talking about, but the dialogues were like written amazingly well. And I was like, wow, what is this? This sounds like a great franchise. And in the comment section, yeah, Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I can't imagine what you must feel when when something like that happens to you. It's like
Humble pie.
humble pie. Because
Eating lots of it.
yeah, man, there's some great dialects and stuff in Game of Thrones. But yeah, the Incredible Hulk. It's should we go over your ranking now? This is, I mean, I guess this is technically only the second one if we're not counting Doctor Strange, but
Third one, because we're cutting Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so what is the ranking for you right now?
My first and best movie that I have enjoyed the most. It is not the best movie. It is not objectively. There is nothing objective about these rankings. I genuinely enjoyed The Hulk the most, Doctor Strange second, and Iron Man the third. I enjoyed the soundtrack of this movie. I enjoyed the tonal shift. I enjoyed that it didn't feel cringy to me. It didn't feel like a superhero movie. I really liked the initial slow parts of the Hulk, just kind of living his life, the slice of life, just surviving, just filling up bottles. That was great too. I enjoyed watching that, and whenever I was allowed to skip like the scenes that I didn't really care for much, just enjoyed the ride. I loved the relationship that he had, with his Arven, and I loved the casting in this movie. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. But it was close. Like it's not like I would say that this movie is so much better than Doctor Strange. I would almost put both of them on the first place and Iron Man on the second. So like very slightly better to me in terms of experience that I have enjoyed was the Hulk than Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and this is really why I wanted to start doing the podcast and talking about these things, because your ranking to me, insane is not the word.
Deranged.
It's different. And I really wanted to be able to talk about this because not a lot of people will have these movies in the orders that you have them. So that means that you are not like the common fan, right? Because it's easy to get to talk about the MCU or talk about these movies with somebody that agrees with me or that has a like mind, you know?
Yeah, someone normal.
Yeah, so someone like-minded that we're just going to agree and talk about the same things, but you're definitely getting something different out of these movies than I am. And so that's where these conversations are going to be fun, right? Like the fact that what you like the most about this movie was that dramatic, that dramatic outturn for Bruce Banner, all of the things that he was going on and dealing with. And I think that maybe the more casual comic book fan wanted more of that Hulk from the beginning, and I think that that's kind of where those lower ratings come from, because you know how fans get, they don't get what they want, they whine and complain about it. But
Oh no, they would never do that.
yeah, I love that you have a complete different perspective on this movie, and that you actually like you were more interested in Bruce Banner, to be honest, than the Hulk.
Yeah, and if someone wants to make an argument that I'm just picking this movie to be a contrarian, to make like a cool pick, like a hipster pick, it's totally fair. Like I cannot really disprove it or deny it. It is what it is. I can be a jerk, and maybe I'm just doing this, to kind of subvert the expectations and stuff. But like I try to present my arguments as to why I enjoyed some of these elements of this movie more than the other ones that I watched. So take this pick what it is, just the movies that I enjoyed, and I'm watching them one by one. And it is entirely possible that this will not remain my number one pick for all the MCU movies before you start lynching me. No, I can probably spoil it right now that no, this will not be my favorite MCU of all the MCU movies. But I cannot also guarantee that my next number one will not surprise you.
Oh my goodness.
It will.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. So there's another question that I want to ask. So at this point of the MCU, this is the second movie.
Third movie.
If do you do you think I'm talking about like when it came out, right? Do you think that with Iron Man having come out and Iron Man setting up a certain type of, I don't know, tone or theme, do you think that slightly hurt this movie when it got released a couple of months after? Or do you think, like, what are some of the things that you feel may have, I don't know, affected Hulk based on Iron Man?
I think the fact that they added the final scene where Tony Stark was present, that to me was a tie-in enough, to like tie this movie into the MCU universe.
Mm-hmm.
I never really like understood the complaint that this movie feels like out of place, or some people don't even consider it like an MCU stuff. this is probably like unique to me because I haven't really seen like all the other movies, but like to me this felt like completely fine and normal. Like there will also be other MCU movies that will be either like more comedic or more darker,
Hmm.
and I like that because I don't think that all of these should be just comedy, Jar Jar Binks jokes and
Yeah, I
just
agree.
completely childish nonsense. Oh my god, this boils my blood and makes me think of a movie that I hate it so fucking much. But I'm not gonna spoil it and mention it now. But yeah, oh my god, that fucking movie, I hated it so much. I skipped like 95% of it. I hated it so much.
Oh goodness. um,
Oh,
the no, I get what you're
what was the
saying.
question again? I'm sorry.
I was just wanting to know, like, because like Iron Man was a huge success when it came out. So I'm thinking if maybe because this was tonally darker and not, you know, I don't want I guess fun is the word, right? Not as like fun as Iron Man.
Yeah, this wasn't a fun movie. Iron Man definitely had like more levity, more jokes, but it was still a serious movie.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'm wondering if you felt like that had an effect on this movie's acceptance.
I definitely, I could see that. But I'm gonna use the same exact argument that I made for the Matrix movie. I also feel a bit bad judging the first Iron Man movie now that I have watched the other Iron Man movies. I think that the Iron Man movie stands out much better as a series of Iron Man movies. Even like the addition of Avengers and all the other like inclusions of Tony Stark, in just the franchise. He's basically the heart, like of the Avengers and of the whole franchise. So I like how those movies set him up, and it also makes me feel like Hulk got kind of the shorter end of the stick.
Hmm.
He deserved that initial origin part. Like I like it on one hand that they decided to go this original route, but at the same time, I feel like the fans of the Hulk deserve a bit better.
Yeah, I agree. Um, and I think that I don't know because the way that I see it is that this a lot of people fail to realize that the MCU ends up being like one big series, and each movie is like an episode, right? And all of your episodes are not going to be great, but they all serve the story in one way or another. And the when you kind of look at it as a whole, you start to, like what you said, right? Like you admire the whole thing as a whole because it kind of works out better. And with with the Hulk, though, for me it's the opposite. Um,
Yeah.
I start liking it less, and it's not fair to the movie. It's more about the MCU. I feel like the MCU doesn't respect this movie.
Indeed.
But yeah.
I have to agree with that. Whenever I watched this movie, the first time, I was, yeah, I really liked it. I was genuinely pleasantly surprised that I liked it, and that probably contributed to my enjoyment. But now that I've seen like all the other movies and the overall tone and what's possible and how big and diverse the universe is, this definitely feels like the redheaded stepchild for a reason. Yeah, I totally understand why certain people would skip it, but I still think that the movie has a lot to offer. Perhaps the Marvel brand or the MCU inclusion kind of hurts it, because I feel like the movie perhaps would have been
Uh-huh.
better, like on its own, like maybe even like without the Hulk, with like some kind of different creature, you know.
Yeah, I probably, and that's why I asked the whole Iron Man thing because I do feel like it does kind of hurt it a bit. But
Yeah, but I love your analogy about the MCU being like an episodic series and all these movies being episodes, and there can be fillers, and there can be like these other unique shows, but there is always enough tie-in, to like give you a reason to watch even like these filler episodes, which unfortunately certain shows don't even bother with.
I agree. So look through your notes, John. Is there anything that we have missed that you want to touch on, that you want to get off your chest? maybe defend.
See, funnily enough, I haven't made any notes about this movie. I usually do. Like, I did make a few comments about like them using Norton antivirus in the university setting, which I found a bit baffling. But like, that was like for fun, you know. But like, this movie didn't really make me inspired to write notes about. I was just kind of hooked, like enjoyed watching it. Didn't really have like much criticisms, and I don't want to just make notes about, you know, I love Gamora's ass, you know. Sure, I made a few, but that's we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We will get there. All right, so that pretty much covers the Incredible Hulk. Guys, I've been dealing with bronchitis and antibiotics have been kicking my ass, but today I felt good enough to sit down and have a chat with John about the movie. So we'll probably be able to get another episode or two out this week, if John is available. But thank you guys
Absolutely.
for hanging out. John, is there anything else you would like to add?
Next episode, we'll be watching Iron Man 2. Make sure you rewatch it, make sure you check it out, watch our recap, and we'll tell you all that we think about it during our next episode. Catch it up, and yeah, stay tuned. We will have a lot to say, I can only imagine.
Yeah, a lot to say. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.